Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Property and Investor podcast. This is the podcast when I speak to some of the most interesting, inspiring, and resilient people in property investing and beyond. I, of course, am your host, Paul Lanfear. Now, as ever, you'll know that my inner lawyer requires me to tell you that nothing that we'll discuss in this podcast is financial, legal, or health advice. Obviously, seek your own independent advice. Now, you may have noticed that this is a very special mini series of the Property Investor podcast, which is separate from the long form ones, which you're familiar with. These are my inner circle superstars, and I have one for you today, Leigh Eyles. These are people that I've had the great privilege of working with as part of my inner circle mentoring group. And as I say, today's guest, Leigh Eyles. Leigh, very warm welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good, Paul. Thanks for having me on here. It's good to see you.
Oh, well, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on. So obviously we've had the pleasure of working together for a couple of years as part of the inner circle thing, and just to sort of talk about that really. So where were you before you joined the inner circle?
In all honesty, I wasn't in the best of places when I joined. I'd been involved in the property industry for probably a year and a half or so, and I was basically just trying to find my feet in terms of where I was. I'd had a few issues along the way and was just looking for a decent group of supportive people really to work with.
Cool. And so you weren't necessarily new to property. You had done some property training, and you'd obviously been active in the property space as well. Can you kind of describe some of the problems and challenges that you were experiencing back then?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest problem I had by far was just trying to find what strategy I really wanted to pursue in terms of property. It's by no means what I wanted to focus on solely. I don't want to be just a property investor, but trying to figure out which strategy was for me was quite difficult. I'd previously been a buy-to-let landlord for the best part of 8-9 years, and I knew I didn't want to do that again necessarily. I certainly didn't want to go down the BRR route, the buy, refurbish, refinance route. So with engaging with different property training, as you've already mentioned, I learned a lot about a lot of the different strategies that people talk about when it comes to property. Tried my hand at a couple of them just to see if I was happy with how they operated, and just couldn't really find my place with it. And as I said, beyond that, I was just having difficulties personally around things. So it was hard to really get a decent level of focus and really commit myself to what I was doing.
Got you. And so with those, I suppose, challenges in mind, how did the inner circle help you? What insights did you have when you were with us? And, how are things now? Like what progress have we made?
Yeah, well, I think being on the inner circle was amazing in the sense of I got to meet a bunch of people who were similarly minded to a large degree, but we were all doing different things. And having exposure to people for a long period of time in a quite a small, close-knit group, which was fantastic, meant that I was able to really understand how different people approached essentially the same problem in terms of what you want to do with property and being a property investor. And then for myself, as I say, just having that support of the group, but more so yourself as well, because you are amazing and very supportive in that context. So having that real support, that backbone, was just amazing for me. It just allowed me to kind of settle myself and ground myself and then propel forwards. And then in terms of where I'm at now, obviously, as you're aware, I've kind of branched out. So I am still investing in property. I have a business partner now, which I've had for quite a period of time, and we're very much focused on the commercial development space. So we're working on a few projects at the moment, seeing what we can secure, and it's really interesting, and it definitely plays to my strengths because it's a numbers game, and that's really what I'm good at, as well as the deal kind of financing strategy and the negotiation as well. And then outside of that, I've obviously spun off my other couple of businesses as well. So I still operate in the tech space, but I also run my coaching business, Succeed with Fulfillment, which is definitely where my passion lies.
That it's worth just hovering over that, because that is a really interesting element to you, which is that you were already independently successful outside of property, and like property was like another string to your bow. So you've got, you are technically very highly skilled and successful in the tech industry, and I won't delve into some of the projects you're doing because I appreciate they may be commercially sensitive, but watch this space. There could be some stuff coming on in this front. But also, you are already a active coach. So do you want to talk a little bit about the coaching as well?
Yeah, absolutely. If I can have a couple of minutes on it.
Yeah,
So, as I mentioned, the company I've named it Succeed with Fulfillment, and my approach to coaching is more of a holistic approach. So I'm not necessarily a life coach. I'm not necessarily a business coach or a fitness coach or anything like that. I'm kind of an amalgamation of different things because I've got a very wide and broad skill set myself. And the onus of the name, the reason why I chose Succeed with Fulfillment is because, yes, we all want to succeed and I want to see people succeed, but I don't want to see people sacrifice their happiness, their joy, their fulfillment whilst trying to become successful. And it's a trap that I've seen too many people get into. And certainly, having gone through some of the training we've already mentioned around property, it's an area where I see a lot of people just jump both feet straight away, and they don't really have a plan, and then they tend to kind of neglect the rest of their lives. So they may lose their relationships, they may lose money, they may neglect their health, their fitness, and quite often it's too late to come back and try and reclaim some of these things. So I'm all about making sure people take the right approach, as it were.
Cool. Right. Well, we'll make sure in the show notes that we have the relevant link for people to find resources on that. We'll definitely do that. So let's kind of, I suppose, be more forward looking now. So what's the plan? Like, what's the future look like for you?
I don't think we've got time to talk about that, Paul. You know me well. You know that my aspirations are massive. I mean, everything now is kind of, I'm looking through rose-tinted glasses. It's probably worth me mentioning, as you're aware, I've had issues health-wise myself this year. I've had a pretty damaged back, which this year has mainly been the focus on that, and it's now getting to a very good place. But alongside that, I've been able to develop the coaching brand. I've been able to work on my tech side. I've got a lot of plans behind the scenes in terms of what I want to launch. So going forwards next year in terms of property, as I say, we have things in the pipeline. I'm certainly expecting the market to change slightly in favor of commercial investors when you're looking at it in a certain way. So over the next couple of years, we will be looking at hopefully quite a few acquisitions, which will be amazing. The coaching business is just going to grow and grow and grow, and there's a big scaling emphasis there, I think. I've mentioned before, my plans are to take that beyond just the UK nationally and aim to be global, because I want to help as many people as possible. But within that, I want to start offering additional services and products such as online training, bespoke meditations, and just a few other bits and pieces that I've got on the back burner as well. And yeah, I have obviously other company ideas and things like that that I won't delve into. The other two are definitely at the forefront right now.
Got you. So basically, the headline is, watch this space. Some big plans are coming to fruition in the next sort of 12 to 24 months. I've got no doubt about that. Fantastic. So then if somebody has, is thinking about, maybe they've been to a breakfast, maybe they haven't, and they're just like thinking about the inner circle. Maybe they're sat on the fence a little bit. What words of advice would you give to somebody in that position about whether they're thinking to sort of jump into the inner circle for a year or two?
I would suggest speaking to people who've done it. There is no way that you don't have a good track record from this, because the information you give is very beneficial to the people who are on it. The supportiveness of the group as a whole has always been good. Just having that community that you've built up around yourself really is amazing. So I would suggest reach out, speak to different people, but certainly have a conversation with yourself, because it's you that people interact with, and it's you that gives the biggest benefit to people.
Oh, awesome. That sounds great. That sounds absolutely fantastic. And I appreciate your really kind words earlier, in terms of the support that I've given you. Naturally, that has been a complete pleasure. I'm grateful for you acknowledging that. It has been an absolute pleasure. And I'm pleased that also, you feel like you've been supported by the group as well, because that is the plan, and, is a kind of self-selecting group in that respect, I would say. So how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way they can reach out to you?
Easiest way is my website, leighyles.com. I've got a very specific and very unique name. Not the easiest to spell sometimes, or even say, as we've discovered, but Certainly, that is the easiest way to get hold of me. On there, there's ways and means of getting in touch. The first point of call for me is always a discovery call, which
Yeah.
is never paid for, and I'm just happy to talk to anyone.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, look, I'll make sure that goes into in the show notes so people can click straight through and have a look. I'd urge people to click that link, have a look, connect with Leigh, see if there's an opportunity to work together if you think that's the right direction of travel. But in the meantime, thanks very much, Leigh, for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and I'm grateful that we've had this sort of moment today together.
Absolutely, Paul. And again, thank you for having me today. But even more so, just thank you again for the support that you have given over the last couple of years. It's been brilliant.
You're always welcome. You're always welcome. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, to discuss anything that we've discussed here, property investing, resilience, anything, come and join me at Property Investor Breakfast. Link is in the show notes. If you're enjoying the podcast, obviously give it a review, and of course, connect with me on social media. Again, of course, all the links below. Keep well, speak soon, and thank you very much for listening to the podcast.